Hello and welcome back. If you managed to watch the clip from yesterday, we are going over the latest content cut by Idubbbz. I got about 20 minutes left, I think it is now. Let me see if that's popping up. There we go, now it's on screen. So I have about 20 minutes left. If you didn't, this is going to be part 2, so if you are interested in part 1, that will be uploaded to my YouTube channel. If you are currently watching this, or if you're watching the clip should remain up for a few more days, and then it'll be gone. So if you want to rewatch it, or if you're watching this and my clip's already gone, then please head to my YouTube channel. I'll put a link somewhere on my Twitch about where it is, so you can find it. So yeah, basically the last time I went over it, I saw that Ethan was kind of, he hasn't got the best takes about the whole situation, and if you don't know what's going on, basically Ethan has come out in support of Israel, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but obviously when he was streaming with Hassan Piker, he's got a very progressive sort of left-wing audience now on his podcast, and obviously left-wingers aren't the biggest fans of Israel, so when he comes out in support of Israel, then they kind of criticise him. The problem is, of course, that Ethan's kind of taking this a step further and is downplaying some of the things that Israel is doing, and sort of lying about or misrepresenting some of the arguments made against him and some of the people he's arguing with. He's picking fights with people who criticise him, and apparently we're in this current section now where he's not the most emotionally stable person to work with from the looks of things. I've got no personal stake in this, so I'm neither for nor against. And I will say that I haven't watched the stream yet, but Papa Gut uploaded a stream, I think it was last night, about how the latest content cop is a sellout. Again, I haven't watched it. I just want to say I'm not going to be defending Idubbbz against literally everything. There are some things that he's done in the past that I can criticise now if I really wanted to. I don't care to, because I don't think it's that important. But if someone was to say to me that they have an issue with Idubbbz because, he's done X in the past, or, Y happened or whatever, they just don't like his content, they don't like him as a person, then I'm not going to defend him regardless. I'll probably just say, that's fair enough. That's probably an issue that I agree with, but I'm not gonna stop watching his content. I don't think the content cop's a sellout. It's a little bit tricky when it's previous friends and previous relationships you had, because all the content cops that Idubbbz did in the past were people that he actively didn't like and didn't have a personal relationship with. It was more about them as a person and their content, whereas this one feels to be about Ethan as a person, and I think some people are taking it the wrong way and seeing it as a personal attack because of everything that's happened behind the scenes. But I think even without everything that's happened behind the scenes, there are ways to criticise Ethan on a personal level, and without it being sort of vindictive, I guess is the word I'm looking for. So we've got to the point where he talks about the button, which is a way for Ethan to kind of say whatever he likes and then hit the button and sort of retroactively ignore that. So there are times where he said some really not very good things, and then they've had to put in a technical, quote unquote, technical difficulties picture, which is just their way of cutting out a section of the podcast in sort of like a sort of jovial way, but he's also hit this button, which cost $20,000, by the way. It doesn't do anything. It's just like a prop button, and he spent $20,000 on it, which to me is ridiculous. So we've just got past that section, so we've got about 20 minutes to go ish. So yeah, we'll just carry on.
It's fun when it's a surprise.
Okay, well,
you just asked how it changed
surprise
things.
them on your show.
Okay, all right.
I understand that that's his role, and he's, Ethan's made that his job, or Dan's made it his job. Ethan leans on it so heavily, in the same way that he leans on the button. Ethan is leaning on all of these people to be adults.
So by leaning on it, Idubbbz means here these cutaways that they make in the podcast, and sort of Dan, the producer, who was there, apologizing for Ethan, or kind of like saying that Ethan... Well, Dan will sometimes say, I think what Ethan means to say is, and then say like a nicer version of what Ethan's just said. But I think in reality, Ethan's just saying these things because he knows he can get away with it. He has the button to rely on. He has his producer to rely on. He has those cuts to rely on. And then when people give him flack for it, because he's obviously said something they don't agree with or something that's problematic, he then gets very defensive and upset and sort of says that they're all fair weather friends. So take that as you will.
And look after his behavior and give all of this emotional and empathetic energy for Ethan, but Ethan refuses to give it back to them. Also, let's talk about AB and Lena, 2 Lebanese employees, and you just continue to talk about the conflict like they don't exist. It would be nicer, a lot nicer, for you to shut the fuck up about it. You're allowed to do that.
Hezbollah in Syria alone killed double that much. All right, I'm going to move on. I just want to play his song, talk.
So yeah, this is kind of an example of what Ethan will do. He'll sort of start saying something, and obviously he carries on this rant. I don't know how long for in terms of behind the scenes, but they'll do that cut. It'll cut to the end of Ethan saying, I think we should just move on, or someone saying, I think we should move on, and then it's not brought up again. So it allows him to get away with saying these things, or kind of like not taking responsibility for some of the things he said, because he can just claim, oh no, I pressed the button, that's, it doesn't count anymore, or I cut that, even though he said some ludicrous things that are obviously not true.
Talking about bad empanada.
Ethan doesn't want to change, and he wants to bring the entire crew down with him, because he's putting them in this position every day, right? But it's more important that he gets this shit off his chest. It's more important that he dumps. We're all familiar with Goblin Mode. Well, Ethan debuted a new mode recently.
And by the way, my ratio is pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm looking at like 20 Goblin modes to 1 too far. Demon mode, let's call it.
Oh no.
What makes Demon Mode different than Goblin Mode is goblins aren't really like an intimidating, powerful force. If the goblin is persistent, it can get what it wants.
When I'm done with the other one, the big one that's dropping probably next week, my full attention is going to you, George. Like the Eye of Sauron. I see you. I see you out there, you fucking cockroach.
Ethan, the reason the internet got behind you when you were being sued by Matt Haas or when you were being sued by Ryan Kavanaugh is because people saw you as the underdog. They saw you as the guy who's defending the common man.
I'm suing, and I cannot wait for you guys to read it. At the moment, we are writing 3 complaints for 3 people.
You are doing the classic rich asshole thing. You have a deficit of friends, you have a surplus of enemies. You feel really bad, you feel hurt, but you also have a surplus of money. So what can you do? You can use that money to bully and intimidate people.
Yeah, that's definitely the vibe I'm getting. Like, I've said in the last part that I haven't really listened to any Ethan content since, well, I think it would be about 7 years ago, because I remember watching, or at least seeing that video, or the videos of them been involved in a lawsuit, so it was around that time. So I haven't watched any of his content in a while, but just looking at it now, the idea that he's like excited to sue people. Like, I understand if people are saying like objectively, what's the word, slanderous things about him, you know, his crew, his company, his wife, whatever. But if I was in this situation, well, first of all, it's the internet. People are going to slander me regardless if I'm a big public figure. But if it was like legitimately career ruining, or like it threatened to be career ruining, I wouldn't be excited about it. Like, I might bring it up. I might say, oh, by the way, I'm suing such and such over their comments. And then just explain how that might affect things, going forward, in terms of, like, you know, some of my time will be spent filing this lawsuit, going through the lawsuit, so on and so forth. I wouldn't, like, dance around with a piece of paper saying, no, I'm filing a lawsuit, I can't wait to sue you, sort of thing. It is like Idubbbz said, it is very much rich asshole behavior.
Public legal threats that you're making to fellow creators, these legal threats that you're making to people on Reddit, on Twitter, you're like, I'm hurt. These people are hurting me. What do I do to stop it? There's nothing I can do to stop it. I'm powerless. No, you have a ton of power. You have a ton of options. You have a ton of choice. That's exactly what you get for being filthy rich, is you can do all of these things.
I've never want to sue someone for defamation, but like at what point do you kind of fucking have to? I mean, this is like basically someone calling you a pedophile. Be like, yeah, no, Ethan's a pedophile.
Dan Clancy or whatever, like the CEO of Twitch, and being
pedophile. Dan KKK Clancy has a similar view of Hitler. Because Dan Clancy, the Nazi, fucking anti-Semite. There are certain things you can accuse people of that rise above to make it like actionable, which is like wrongfully accusing someone of being a pedophile, a sex criminal, a murderer, shit like that.
Dan Clancy now, in other words, he is a pedophile.
You have so much less to go off of saying that than anybody has about
based
Dream.
on his looks. Just based on his
Well,
looks.
at least you're self-aware.
That's 100% a joke. I have no evidence to conclude that he is.
One of the more
Yeah, that's like the epitome of hypocrisy. You can't file lawsuits over supposed harassment and then say, like, you know, is the equivalent of someone calling you a PDF file and then calling other people a PDF file. That's insane.
notable legal threats that Ethan has sent out recently is against Noah Sampson.
I have nothing but vibes to gain, and potentially your money as well. Don't worry if you don't have it all now. I'll garnish your wages. You'll be.
The thing is, why does Ethan need the money? Like, I understand from a legal sense and like from a moral sense, he wants to combat what he sees as defamation and harassment. But he's obviously doing quite well for himself. You know, he's still got his channel, he's still got his podcast, he's employed a crew that he can, you know, keep on his payroll. He's worked with some of the biggest Twitch streamers. He's done content for like millions of people throughout his career. Let me just check his net worth actually, see if it's actually up. Okay, so 20 million, but I'm going to take that with a pinch of salt. Let's be generous and say that he's worth half that and say he's worth 10. Like, 10 million is, in the grand scheme of things, it's a lot of money. Like, I think a lot of people see 10 million and then see that people are having, like, you know, 10 times that amount, or, you know, they're, like, worth 500 million, or, you know, these star athletes and musicians who are, like, worth nearly $1 billion. And they say that's a lot of money, and it is a lot of money, but in in regards to some of the people that Ethan's putting this content out to, they can only dream. They can only dream of being a millionaire, let alone a millionaire 10 times over. So Ethan doesn't need this money, like, and to take it off another creator just because you have a beef with him, like, I don't feel like that's a good thing to do. If it was copyright, yeah. But obviously Noah Sampson isn't guilty of copyright. Like, regardless of where he would stand on the Ethan, on this situation, if he was like in support of Ethan or against him, I don't think there's any way that he could be guilty of copyright. Like, because he might have to use some of his clips and some of his things to talk about him, but that's not a copyright issue. So the only real reason that I can think that he'd be getting money is because Ethan thinks that it's slander. And the fact that he's happy to get Noah Sampson's money when he's worth potentially 10 million is... that is just evil. That's like Dr. Evil levels of narcissism. Why do you need that sort of money?
You're going to be living with your parents for a lot longer, buddy. 26, you know what I mean? Try 46.
Noah made a video that was critical of Ethan and other content creators when they're talking about Israel and Palestine. I mean, the way he's talking about Noah on his podcast is so fucking creepy and weird.
Is this a new thing?
This is a new thing. This happened during the show. Upon initial examination, it seems to check out, and it's not great for young Noah.
Can I say that? Don't say it yet.
I don't get what the hand thing is that Ethan keeps doing. He kept doing it when we went over this video yesterday. He kept doing it. I don't know what it is. Like, if it's a stim or a twitch, or I think he said he has Tourette, so that's the only thing I can think of. And I'm not criticizing him for that. I guess I was just working it out in real time what it might be.
Yeah.
That's it.
So he's a rape. So of course his standard. I don't know what he's accused of, so I'm not actually going to say. But
Ethan brought on a former partner of Noah to basically just shit talk him and say that he's a bad partner. But that's all that Ethan was able to extract out of it.
you are not accusing him of committing any crimes or doing R-word or anything like that. The accusation is that he's a sleaze.
Absolutely. Noah
Yeah.
Sampson, as far as I know, is not a rapist.
Fuck you to Noah Sampson, who's not just a liar and a scumbag, but also a creep, allegedly.
Allegedly.
Now let's talk about the left-leaning Democrat.
He presents himself as someone like me, a left-leaning Democrat who supports basic things.
The thing that made me start to question Ethan's intentions is that when he was suggested to talk to Sam Cedar, a fellow progressive, a guy that Ethan respects and looks up to.
He works for... What's Sam?
Sam Cedar's great, by the way. I've seen some content from Sam, and he is genuinely one of the best political commentators like on the planet at the moment. Not just because his politics are so, like, they're just so common sense, but he presents them in a way that you have to be genuinely insane to not agree with them. Like, you have to want the world to burn in order to not agree with Sam Cedar. If you don't know Sam Cedar, he does the Majority Report, which is like a political style podcast where he looks at all sorts of things. He'll have people call in sometimes. He'll look at like right-wing content and break it down. As we've just seen, he did I think that's Jubilee. I'm not too sure though, but he was basically in a room with 20 MAGA supporters, and there was like the setup was a table in the middle. He was on one side, and then it was like I think like a round robin style thing. So someone would come up, like rush to the chair on a certain topic. They talk with Sam. They'd have like a maximum, I think, of 20 minutes per topic. And if the group found that they weren't doing that well against Sam, they'd like lift up this red card that they have. And if they got to 11, I think it was, then they were voted off, like the chair, and then someone else would have a turn. And genuinely, some of the people that Sam talked to in that video are insane. Like, I question the mental health care that America has for some of those people, because they were genuinely insane.
Progressive, a guy that Ethan respects and looks up to.
He works with Sam Cedar at the Majority Report. I respect him and what they do there.
He kept saying that it was racist or anti-Semitic to suggest that he talked to someone who's within the same ethnic group as him.
That's why I said yesterday, like, I urge Ethan to talk to Sam Cedar. There are very thoughtful, very kind anti-Zionist Jews out there that he could talk to. I don't think that I will be able to reach him.
What's the insinuation that I only listen to other Jewish people? You need to talk to my pre-approved list of Jews that like agree with me on everything.
It's not a pre-approved list of Jews. It's there's one group called Zionists, and they don't necessarily have to be Jewish, but some of them are Jewish, who want Israel to be basically an ethno-state of just Jewish people, with no Palestinians, no Arabs, no Muslims in that area. So they want to either kill or deport all of the current Palestinians that are living within Israel and its neighbour, like the neighbouring areas. And then, of course, you have the more rational side of things, the more rational people, most of which are actually Jewish, who don't support Zionism, who they still believe that Israel is I think they believe that Israel is the nation of Jews, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they want it to be an ethno-state. They're very comfortable with Palestinians living there, giving back certain territory to Palestinians, and kind of coming to either a two-state solution, excuse me, or a one-state solution where everyone lives in harmony. It's not a one-state solution like the Zionists want, where it's only Israel in that area. So to dishonestly frame it as a pre-approved list of people that just agree with Hassan it shows that he's not actually engaging with this topic in good faith. He's kind of already riled himself up and is expecting to hear something that will just wind him up, and then he just goes off on something that's not even relevant.
Everything, it doesn't matter if they're Jewish, dude. It doesn't matter if they're fucking Jewish.
I think most Jews.
I don't think Jews at large view it. I don't think that is the.
In what position are you to even say that?
The reason why I think it's important to highlight that they are Jewish is to combat this idea that Zionism is inherently a Jewish thing, and that the only people criticizing Israel are non-Jews. Because obviously there are Jewish people who criticize Israel, and both in the country and outside the country, who criticize Israel and say that this isn't the government that they want, this isn't the solution that they want. So highlighting the fact that there are certain Jewish people that engage in this sort of anti-Zionist argument and support for Palestinians breaks down this preconceived notion that the only people supporting Israel are the right-wing extremist Christians in America and Jewish people. It's like saying that in 1940 there were German people who opposed the Nazis, because obviously there were German people who opposed the Nazis. The difference is, of course, well, I don't think there is any difference, actually. I think if you were openly, of course, critical of the Nazi regime, then you could have been disappeared in the middle of the night. But the point of bringing up the fact that they're German and doing it is to show that there's people of that group that, we associate Nazism with German, especially in 1940. The only group of Nazis were the Nazi political party. Nowadays, it's a term that's used for people who agree with those sorts of politics. But to point out the fact that there were Germans who were critical of their own German state is exactly why Hassan is saying that there are Jewish people who oppose oppose Zionism. because it reframes it in your mind, so you're not looking at it as a us versus them, sort of a myopic in group out group sort of thing. It's more complex than that, and it's that's why he brought it up. It wasn't to say you must listen to these people that exclusively agree with me and only agree with me. It's no, there are people on my side of the political spectrum who happen to be Jewish and are critical of the way Israel is conducting itself.
Not
Speak for my
motivated by
entire ethnic
myself.
group.
It's motivated
That's
by
crazy to me.
Jews against anti-Zionist
No,
Jews.
seriously, how can you speak for my entire ethnic group? I find that really interesting.
Ethan, I don't know what to fucking tell you. This is like step one of having a leftist ideology, is recognizing our race, religion, nationality, all this shit, all shape our experiences as people.
That's the reason why it'd be better.
That is true as well. Race, ethnicity, nationality, what country you live in, what countries you've been to, it all shapes how you think and how you see the world. So that's kind of why it's important, again, to bring up that there are Jewish people who have the same experience of being Jewish, but have through that experience have come to a different conclusion about the things that are going on, and it kind of would help Ethan to open his mind a little bit about what are the arguments going on against Zionism.
Better served to have this conversation not with myself, but with an anti-Zionist Jewish person,
Why does it matter if they're Jewish?
because I'm not Jewish, and you've said in this conversation that, like, how can you tell me how to feel about the situation?
Yeah, but how is one person representative of Jews at large? I'm just telling you how Jewish people around the world interpret that phrase.
So yes, Ethan, on occasion you might be suggested to talk to someone who has some crossover with you. It doesn't have to be your ethnicity. It could possibly be someone who shares progressive ideology with you. It could possibly be someone who is of your same gender. I think Ethan understands this concept very well. He listened to these women on his show when they told him that he shouldn't be calling women bitches.
This bitch is intolerable. You are such a nasty fucking bitch, Ken.
I don't know if you can call her a bitch though.
She is a bitch. She's a
what do you-
fucking bitch.
okay,
You're right.
I'm
I call her a
curious-
see you next Tuesday.
Listen,
Like,
you have
I'm curious, what do Lena and Sam think about it?
I wouldn't be okay with that.
Yeah.
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 I feel like that it's for the girlies, Ethan. But I
so
agree.
you guys all seem to be
Yeah.
in consensus that
We
it's in
are.
poor form. I think to respect the women here in the room, I'm going to have to pass on saying that.
The infantilization of
Yeah, So I would agree with Ethan there. I think you shouldn't be saying bitches are derogatory towards women. That being said, I think if someone does say it towards people in general, like regardless of their gender, I think it's obviously not motivated by sexism. But I think for Ethan to listen to that consensus of a group that he's not a part of on one issue, and then refuse to listen to a group that he is a part of but have a different conclusion of him on a different issue, it again, it just shows that he's not really engaging in all of this in good faith. He's not actually wanting to listen to these arguments and learn. He's got his position and he wants to stick to it.
of Ethan Klein is fucking nauseating. He's not a child. He is absolutely capable of looking into Hassan, learning about his politics, interviewing, doing loads of things to figure out where he stands.
He presents himself as someone like me, a left-leaning Democrat who supports basic things. And for the first time, I noticed an inordinate amount of radical, hardcore leftists. I mean, I thought we were social democrats, not whatever this was. This comment from Hassan really started to sound some alarms in my head. I was already getting uncomfortable with our partnership. I started to wonder if I had any idea who this guy actually is.
You made how many episodes with Hassan? Like, this guy made a fucking program with the biggest mega leftist on the platform. Now he's acting like he was tricked and he was incapable of figuring out.
Yeah, it's insane because I don't listen to Hassan. I don't watch any of his content. I have my own issues with some of the things he's said in the past and the way he's conducted himself. But in terms of his actual politics, like, he is the left-wing political streamer. Like, he's the one who brought it into the mainstream on Twitch and on YouTube. So much so that now it's paved the way for people like Sam Cedar, who Ethan looks up to. Like, I'm sure Sam would do it either way. But would Sam be as popular if Hassan Piker didn't do it first? I don't know. So this idea that Hassan said something that was like ultra mega left, you know, he thought he was a social democrat as well. Like, no, Hassan Piker is a leftist. Let me just look at what a social democrat is in America, because I know a vague term. America. If I just do ideology. Okay, so being a social democrat is kind of like the middle ground between being a capitalist and being a socialist. So Hassan is a socialist. Regardless of whether you agree with that or not, that's just what he is. That's his political ideology. And Ethan would know that going in. Like, there's no way that Ethan doesn't know Hassan is a socialist before doing that many episodes with him. So the idea that, like Idubbbz said, he was tricked or it came out of the blue or anything like that, I find that hard to believe. That's just, no.
Now, what this guy's beliefs were. Bro, I didn't make the fucking leftist program. You did. You made fucking, what, 60 some odd episodes of this shit for hours talking to this guy? You didn't have a problem with any of it until, Ethan talks about being aware of Hassan's 9/11 comments and then sort of leaves it at that. Like it was just a joke. Actually, I think Ethan describes them as edgy moments or jokes.
You might remember him from such classics as
America deserved 9/11, dude. Fuck it, I'm saying it.
Now, to be clear, I knew about all these edgy and controversial jokes at the time we made the show together, because who am I to judge?
No, Ethan, those aren't jokes, right? When someone makes a controversial statement like that, that's not them trying to be funny. I can understand why you would conflate the two. That is someone who is extremely frustrated and passionate about a particular topic. In this case, American imperialism and terrorism. You could have looked into that. You could have talked to Hassan a little bit more and found out what his international...
I get the sentiment behind that comment. I just managed to pull my headphones out so I wouldn't be able to hear the video. So I get the sentiment behind that comment. I don't obviously agree with the comment, but I get the sentiment behind it. There is a lot of things to criticize America for, and sort of this. I don't think it is controversial to say that America didn't help their relations in the Middle East in the early 2000s, late 90s, early 2000s. So I don't think America deserved it, but I get that it's coming from a place of sincerity where we are talking about American imperialism and the way that their Middle Eastern relations have gone, and the fact that it gets labelled a joke, I think, isn't fair. Like, I would call it as it is. It is a controversial statement. Excuse me. And it's not one that I agree with, but I understand the mentality behind saying it.
Politics opinions are, but you wouldn't even need to do that. You can look at it online. You're not a victim. You weren't tricked. You made 60 some odd episodes. If you didn't want to go down this route, you shouldn't have done it. But that was your fucking choice. You did it. You are an adult. When Ethan and Hila are watching Matt Lieb saying that one state doesn't represent all Jews, they cannot wrap their heads around the idea.
No single person represents all Jews.
I'm just telling you how Jewish people around the world interpret that phrase.
No single person represents all Jews, as no single state represents all Jews.
This is another weird thing.
Oh my God.
Israel This is a lie that I see Hassan and people.
How is that a lie? That's like an objectively true fact. Like, I don't represent all white people. I don't represent all guys, even though I am a white guy. I don't represent those sorts of people, like, throughout the entire world. Like, there are plenty of white guys who have disagreed with me on all sorts of issues. But as soon as it comes to, you know, Jewish people, Ethan has an issue, and it's just not fair.
They say that Israel's going to war on behalf of Judaism. They have never. I don't believe that that's ever been stated, and I don't think Israel ever explains that it's like. I think Israel says it's a place where Jews can go.
Israel's just a place Jews can go? With that slogan, we might actually have peace. You know, if that's all you're defining Israel as,
that is a good point.
A place Jews can go. Like, sure, it sounds like America to me. Like, all right.
I don't think that Israel said they represent all Jews. I don't think that's a stance. We're like, hey, displacing Palestinians is all Jewish people.
Ethan is being so disingenuous here to suggest that he doesn't understand what Matt Lieb is saying. Like, he's making a semantic argument. Like, I don't think Israel has said that it represents every last Jew on the planet. I don't think Israel has claimed that. They're not going to say that their most genocidal behavior represents anything to do with them, okay? But what they are going to do is they're going to inexplicably link Israel and Jewishness together, so when they're being criticized, all of a sudden they have the perfect defense. Oh.
That summed up some of my earlier points better than I summed them up. There is this idea that from the Zionist perspective, Israel and Jews are inherently linked, such that any critique of Israel is a critique of Jews, and therefore anti-Semitism, when that's not the case. You can criticize a state, like a country, even a city-state, a sort of satellite state, anything that represents its own entity on like the global scale. You can criticize that without criticizing every individual member of that group or every subgroups of that wider group. So, you know, not all Jewish people are being critiqued when we criticize Israel or Zionism, even though there are Jews that we are criticizing when we criticize Zionism and Israel. But that's not because they're Jewish, that's because they're Zionists.
Another thing I need to mention. There was a tier list. It was called the Who Can Say Habibi tier list. It was presented at TwitchCon as like a panel that was just meant to be lighthearted and fun. And Ethan Klein saw that, and he decided that it was anti-Semitic.
Tier list them, and we're going to need your help to discuss and figure out who can say Habibi and who can't.
And also, we have tiers. We have Arab coded. They ask permission to say Habibi. You know, like you got like a white guy who's like, can I say it? Is it a slur? And then Love Sabra, which is they're not Arab coded at all.
Now, when I first saw this tier list, I immediately knew what it was doing. I was like, oh, it's a play on the who has the N-word pass and who doesn't tier list. Granted, Habibi is very different than the N-word, but it is a cultural word amongst Arabic-speaking people and Muslim people. Like, that is a word that's used. Habibi, it means my love. Oh no, don't do that, Habibi. Oh yes, Habibi. You're my Habibi, I'm your Habibi. So yes, it's meant to be a fun way that these Arab content creators can express their Arab culture and be proud of it and happy about it.
Which is completely fine. Like, I've seen videos of Arab people saying Habibi, and I really like it, actually. It's a nice word. I get why some people might see other people using it as problematic. All I could say about that is that I would very happily hear out their reasons why. I might agree, I might disagree, depending on the context, but at the end of the day, if that's their feelings, if they don't want me to use that word, or people like me using that word, I can't decide otherwise. That's, you know, I just won't use it.
Because it's not like they have massive representation on the platform.
Making a tier list based on race. And nobody has a fucking problem with that. Okay, you have a tier list based on race. Where's the Jewish panel? Where's the Jewish panel? Where at the top it says Jewish. It's a tier list based on Arab to Jew. He's Arab, which is good. That's the best thing you can be on this. That's the best. This is this is racist.
I will say that conveying information through a tier list is not the most effective thing, but Ethan should understand this principle. He did a white slurs tier list with Hassan.
Cracker.
I mean, you know what my take is.
We can't put this as an F. Cracker. I mean, that's got to be at least a D, right?
Pale face motherfucker.
Pale face. I mean, again, I think that's an F. Hog.
So hog is my favorite. I use it all the time.
Him and Hassan feel as though they are white guys, so they felt very comfortable talking about white slurs on their tier list.
I think I'm more white than you. What do you think?
I think I'm white. Like, I'm super white.
Can you understand why Arabs might feel comfortable talking about Arab shit on their tier list, Ethan? You're the white guy. You think you're more white than Hassan.
I think I'm more white than you.
So, yeah, the white guy can say all the things that he wants, like cracker, but the Arabs can't have their tier list.
I would.
The thing is, the word Habibi isn't a slur unless it's used in that context. Like, as Idubbbz went over it, like, in its original Arabic context, it's a term of endearment. So this is, like, this tier list here, it is clearly, you know, the tongue-in-cheek of who has the M-word pass, who, you know, the white slur tier list. But again, it's not a slur, so like, even if they are joking about who can say it in terms of who's an Arab, who's not an Arab, like, it's clearly a joke. It's clearly making fun of the whole tier list concept.
Put him also an Arab. I know Turkish people are different.
Notice how they dropped the premise almost immediately that it's about who can say Habibi. And then it's like, Hassan, okay, actually, he's Arab. We fucking love him. He's dope. He's Arab.
Habibi is an Arabic word. That is an Arabic word, Ethan.
Funny about this whole thing is that they say Habibi in Israel. Again, people underestimate just how, like, mixed Israeli...
Yes, because Israel does speak, like, one of the languages spoken in Israel is Arabic. Another one is Hebrew. Because of the area. Like, does Ethan not understand that Israel has a literal border with Arab-speaking countries? Like, of course there are going to be people who speak Arabic who live in Israel, and over time that's going to become part of the language. Whether or not, you know, a certain person who uses Habibi actually speaks Arabic in Israel, that doesn't matter. It's still of Arabic origin.
Culture is like...
We say Habibi in Israel. Yes, Ethan. Another piece of evidence as to why it isn't anti-Semitic.
This is racist!
If you're not Arab or understand Arab culture at all, which is a lot of Americans, and Ethan Klein presents you this tier list and calls it anti-Semitic, you're just going to eat it up. It's not. Ethan is just proving his location on this tier list under Love Sabra because he doesn't understand Arab culture. There's a lot of Arabs who eat Sabra. There's a lot of people like me who eat Sabra. A lot of the times it's all that's in the store, and I'm gonna buy it and I'm gonna eat it.
What is Sabra? Is that how I spell it? Oh, okay. Refers to a native-born Israeli Jew, a term derived from the prickly pear cactus. So okay, so it is a cactus and okay.
But it is not the good shit. Like, the average Arab American, they're gonna go in the store and the only option they have is fucking Sabra, and that sucks. That's the
it's hummus. Never mind.
Arab community.
I don't know why I looked up. So Sabra is just hummus. Okay.
And distribution facilities are not widespread across the U.S. So what are they left with? They're left with a common, relatable, shitty hummus, which is Sabra. And what's so fucking pathetic about this whole thing is after he was able to get these Arab creators banned off of Twitch for 30 days, he goes on to talk about how bad Sabra hummus is on his show.
I don't think anybody prefers Sabra over homemade, like, restaurant quality hummus. You know, it's what's there.
Like weirdly fluffy.
It is fluffy.
Sabra. Weird.
Yeah.
I would buy it sometimes and eat it. It's not the best.
The problem is with Sabra, in my opinion, it's only good for the first 2 days.
For some reason, like, when you eat this Sabra shit, it just feels so much heavier. Imagine eating a whole fucking vat of Sabra. That's crazy.
Yeah. I've never liked hummus.
Oh, okay.
Well, you hate Jews then.
I don't.
And Arabs.
Yeah.
This is racist.
Yeah, it's almost like you can have a discussion about Sabra hummus being a bad hummus without it being at all related to a Jewish thing or an Israeli thing. he can have that discussion as much as he wants on his podcast because we all know his intentions aren't anti-Semitic.
This is what he did. He hit his heart hard.
The Zionism is leading to not accepting
Unironic Sieg Heil from Ethan there.
other cultures embracing their own culture and instead thinking that that is an attack on you. There's this incident on the podcast where they were reacting to Cutie Cinderella and Ethan was laughing during it. So that ended up being a pretty important wake-up call for Ethan. He made an apology video directed at Cutie Cinderella, and it was graded by a professional psychologist, Dr. Kirk Honda of Psychology in Seattle.
I think I've seen this guy. I think he does a lot of... He might be a body language expert, I'm not sure. I think I've seen some of his stuff online. It's quite good.
And Ethan got an A+ rating.
In terms of a public apology, this is A+.
Ethan won't stop talking about his A+ rating.
You know he rated my apology to Cutie Cinderella a perfect score?
Okay, the whole point of an apology is that it's meant to be sincere. Like, grading an apology, yeah, it's a bit of a meme thing to do because we've had so many bad apologies on YouTube. But also, I get from the point of a psychological analysis, it can be interesting for people to see what makes a good apology, what's going into it on the psychological side. But to then talk about how great your apology was because it was graded A by a psychologist kind of lessens the impact of the apology. Like, if someone apologized to me and someone else said, yeah, that was a great apology, A+, and then they immediately went, yeah, it was a great apology, wasn't it? Did you hear that I just been graded A+? I'd be like, well, you didn't mean it then. Like, the fact that someone else grades an apology is interesting, but it's not something that I would then be like, okay. I wouldn't be proud of that. I'd just be like, you know, that's interesting. I wouldn't bring it up in public. I wouldn't bring it up to people. I just leave it there, and then that way, the apology actually remains sincere instead of it being like this performance art sort of thing.
Perfect 10.
A perfect 10 out of 10?
Literally 10 out of 10. Go back. I can teach you how to make a good apology. I'm the best at
10 out of 10.
I know what a perfect apology is, lady.
I will say, though, jokes about it are fine. Like that one of, I can teach you how to make a perfect apology. If that's him referencing the fact that he got a good apology and a joke about how many bad apologies we've had so far on YouTube from, like, celebrities and whatnot, perfectly fine with that, because it's obviously in a joking way. But when you say it multiple times over and over again and you mean it sincerely, it's clear that you only care about the fact that you were given a good rating on an apology and not the actual apology itself and what it meant to the person you said it to.
You fucking don't. Is my perfect apology in this PowerPoint?
Dude, I got a perfect 10 out of 10. This one is actually best apology, so...
Ethan Klein, you guys, oh my god!
I was trying really hard to think about an impactful moment during this video. Like, could I do something that would really wake Ethan up? And I don't know if this came from a good place or not, but I came up with the idea of getting Ethan's grade changed from an A to a B at least. So I went to visit Psychology in Seattle. I'm not confident that Kirk will change his grade, but it's worth trying. And
see, this is why I like Idubbbz' content, because he actually, like, he goes and does the work. Like, he'll think of a joke or he'll think of something he wants to do, and he'll actually use, like, his money and his influence to sort of engage in these things. It's interesting that he's like he's so upset with Ethan at this point that he'd actually go and want to get his grade changed just so Ethan can stop talking about how perfect his apology grade was.
You know, we might learn a thing or two.
Xander! Probably get pretty low marks. Unlike me, perfect score, 10. I said, hey, Lud, no big drama. Why are you such a spineless coward of a person now that you've inserted yourself and your girlfriend into this conversation?
Okay, Idubbbz, I hear you. You're in the room with me right now. I hear you. I hear your request. I understand it. I can understand where it's coming from. And I I guess, have a policy that when there is a grade for an apology, I am just grading that discrete apology as I see it without taking any consideration of prior or future behavior. If you're wanting me to comment on the overall behavior or the recent behavior from the clips that you have shown me, I believe that Ethan is a good person and that eventually he will feel sorrow and will feel sorry and will apologize, and I will be there to evaluate that apology when it happens, which I know it will.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
Unfortunately, Kirk did not change his grade, but that's okay, because this is the internet. Anyone can have their own official apology rating system, so I'm going to rate Ethan's apology a B-. That's just based on my own feelings and my own rubric. When Psychology in Seattle was watching these video clips of Ethan, he said that it looks like Ethan could just use a hug. Now, of course, it kind of pisses me off to hear that shit, because I'm like, what are we doing? What are we saying? He needs a hug? No, he doesn't need a hug. He needs a good fucking ass whooping is what he needs. I think something that's very important to me in bringing back Content Cop is to be fair. I think that was something that was not illustrated in previous Content Cops that I think should have been, and probably wouldn't have left me with so much regret. Ethan deserves all of the criticism that he's getting. I think it's very valid. But I also think, at the end of the day, we should acknowledge that he's human, because he is human. And he is in a situation that's making him extremely scared, paranoid, defensive, sensitive, and I'm sure other features and feelings. In the spirit of Kirk saying that it looks like Ethan could just use a hug, I have challenged some of his most powerful haters to put down the haterade and just say something nice and charitable about him, because I think he deserves it.
I just wanted to say that I respect that you are genuinely yourself on the internet. I think a lot of other people respect you for it as well. I think that's a big reason why people were drawn to your content in the first place. I think that's a lot of the reason why your employees chose to work with you over anyone else.
Ethan, I think it's respectable that you even began this journey to leave behind the anti-SJW crowd and step into a more empathetic worldview. I know it's not easy.
Ethan Klein, I think that when you are being goofy, when you're being silly, when you are being lighthearted, and just having fun with your friends, I think that is when you're at your best. So I'd love to see more of that. That'd be sick.
I will be reading my letter off because I don't want to sound robotic. H3 used to be the force for good that I used to watch. I hope that one day gets back to what I remember. You were one of the inspirations for me to start creating content, so all this has stunk. I hope you really hear this, and I wish you the best.
I think Ethan Klein rocks a buzz cut pretty good, and I think he's got a good choice of facial hair. I think it's really cool what he did 8 years ago, fighting that frivolous lawsuit. That was pretty fucked up, and fighting it, he changed YouTube for the better. And I thought that was cool, because I thought it was like he was fighting for free speech.
I also see the dynamic.
That's actually quite a nice segment. I think going forward, that's actually quite a nice thing to do, to sort of get some people who are featured in the video and who are sort of Ethan's having beef with to actually sit down and say, like, he's not completely evil. He's not completely excuse me. He can't be completely, like, he's redeemable as a person. There are obviously some good qualities about him because he's a human, and we're all human. We all have good and bad qualities about us. And the fact that they can actually sit down and say, Ethan, you inspired me to start this journey, is, I think, going forward, if Idubbbz does decide to do more Content Cops, I think that's a nice little section to have.
Dynamic of Ethan and Neil, I'm like, fuck, like, it's really hard to be a couple online and see people attacking your partner, and it's like, okay, like, if you come to their defense, if that doesn't always help them, right? Sometimes that makes it worse for them.
And I have been kind of slipping into a very unhealthy place where it's gotten worse and worse, and I get criticized more and more, and I get more defensive and more hold up, a feeling of almost infallibility, that I could take anything on. It led me to make a lot of mistakes, and then when I was criticized for those mistakes, then I would act extremely defensive and nasty and not really processing them in a healthy way.
So there we go. That was I'll close that for now. That was how do I go? Hold on. So that was an interesting video for sure, definitely. I think at the end where Ethan sort of talked about his own retrospective look into himself, I think that was an interesting insight, and I think, without wanting to bash on the guy, because obviously he's struggling with some mental health issues and he has done for a while, and I say this as someone who does as well, it can be quite tricky to navigate on the internet, especially when there are people who are criticizing you for seemingly every little thing you do. It can be hard to sort of get out that bubble and take a step back and think about what's really worth it and what's not. Excuse me. So I think going forward, I've got no skin in the game. If more content comes out about it, I might watch it. I might do a stream on it. I might not. I think just going forward, it's one of those things where... Wow, I've really got a frog in my throat now. It's one of those things where obviously we can criticise Ethan for some of the things he says and some of the things he does and the conduct he has around people, but at the end of the day, he is still human and he's still got his own struggles. So we need to be a bit more empathetic about that, maybe, possibly, who knows. So that's going to be it for today's stream. I thought I'd just finish this video of the content cut with my thoughts on it, see what's going on, and then probably tomorrow I'll do some... I'll stream a game, because I feel like I'm in the mood to stream something, but I'm not sure yet because I didn't manage to get my video game audio working, I think. I still haven't checked on that. But yes, thank you very much for watching this clip. Hopefully I can start growing the Twitch channel a bit more. I'm going to be uploading these as well to YouTube, because I did actually upload a few videos up there years ago. So the channel's been dead for a while and I want to sort of get back into it, and I think uploading my Twitch content there is sort of like both an archive and, if it's something like this, I think something that people might be interested in. Definitely something that I would like to do more of in the future, and hopefully I can sort of start growing an audience. So yeah, with all that being said, thank you very much for watching, and I shall see you again soon.